My name is Mike Zadorojny. I'm the game director on Guild Wars 2. When we launched the game, we had grand plans for where Guild Wars 2 would go. It's the continuation of a long-running franchise, and we wanted to make sure that we were paying homage to the original, but still bringing something new and fresh to the game. 6 years later, the journey has been long and fun, and we are just reinvigorated by continuing that legacy. We have visited iconic locations from Guild Wars 1 throughout our time in Living World, and through some of our expansions. But at the same time, we're starting to get to the point where we have already visited some new areas and started to spark the interest of exploration and going beyond what we've already known for the franchise. The community is what empowers us to continue to do this, and to see how friendly they are, how much support they have for each other, and for us as a studio has just been wonderful, and it just invigorates us and pushes us further each day, trying to do more than we did previously, do better, and just bring to life this vision of such a global community in such a compelling and immersive way. We knew from the very beginning there was something special about Guild Wars 2. From the way that players interacted, we built the game from the ground up about being very cooperative, about you being excited to see another player, whether it was in World versus World and it was an ally, or it was an enemy that you wanted to kill, whether it was in competitive PvP and it was somebody you wanted to stomp, or just in the open world in a partyless system, that you could just find somebody that was trying to do the same content you were, and because you were playing alongside them, you both got the same amount of loot, you both got your own roles, there was no kill stealing, and you were just excited about finding other people. And it started building communities, and from the very beginning we knew, just from the first couple steps and the first couple months, that this was something that was going to blossom into something that we saw today, and just the general support that we see for the overall game. So for 6 years, we've been iterating on the Living World structure, releasing new content at various forms of cadence, at various forms of depths of content, of depths of storytelling, and we've always strived to make ourselves better than the previous season. As we are starting to move towards the end of Season 4, we're ratcheting up the encounters, the dangers that players are going to face, the threat that they're going to have to overcome, and something that's going to force all players to come together in order to achieve. And we're excited because we're going to be moving directly from Season 4 into Season 5 in a new storyline that's going to continue where we leave off, to continue the overall arc of the narrative of Guild Wars 2, and start to bring answers to some of the bigger questions that we've left unanswered. Balance is always a tricky one because it's not just about one game type. We have probably dozens of game types at this point. From the competitive side of PvP, players have started to push themselves for more interesting game modes. Like, they've created their own game modes that we try and support in the ways that we can, even within our World versus World or GVG. And then you add in, okay, we have competitive raids, our fractals, which are more of our competitive dungeon scene, obviously in the open world, and so all these things. So when you're looking at balance as a whole, we want to make sure that we have viability for specs in different game modes, and that players feel like they have an interesting choice, and it's not necessarily, I need to reroll a new character to be, to feel like I can participate in the content, that I still have an option and a meaningful choice when I'm looking at my spec or my build. There's a couple of things that we do in terms of how we listen to our players. We're obviously monitoring things in terms of the online forums and the discussions. A lot of us play the game, so you'll see us with our developer tags up because we want to have the individual player interactions. Obviously, we're reaching out to press like you guys. We also come to like Gamescom, we have fan events and things like that because we want to hear directly from the players. And a lot of that comes from listening to their desires, listening to what they like, what they don't like, what they find more challenging or more difficult than they would have expected, and allows us to kind of use that as feedback as part of an iteration cycle. With Living World, we always have 3 teams in flight that are working on the next episode and leapfrogging each other. And so because this allows us to pivot pretty well in terms of, cool, we found something that players really enjoy, and we want to make sure that we're either iterating on that and digging deeper, or we found something that didn't necessarily resonate with them, and we need to find a better way to either communicate through messaging or find a better way that allows them to feel that immersive pull and that connection to the characters or the content that they didn't necessarily find. And so through all those multiple channels, allowing us on the rapid cadence that we are, allows us to kind of make sure that we're adjusting for those. And some of the bigger ones we've been looking at more recently for this season have been how we've been developing features. The expectation that with Path of Fire, we had 5 mounts that came out, and there was a lot of speculation that if we were going to do another mount, it was going to come with another box expansion. And for us, it was about like, well, that's not necessarily what we want to do. For us, mounts have been tools and companions for you to go along in the ride. And so with episode 3 of this latest season of Living World, we introduced the 6th mount because it made sense for us from a gameplay perspective, from a story perspective, and an overall cohesion perspective. And so that was where, for us, it's allowing us to look and go, hey, look, we don't need to wait for a box product to give players new things, new toys, new ways to experience our content. And we can just find ways to do it organically through our production methodology. We've also tried to look at how we release raids, fractals, updates to World versus World, and PvP, and make it so that we are encouraging players to explore these content styles, and that we're preventing them from growing stale. With Season 4, with the very next episode, we're introducing Sun's Refuge. It's a nice callback to a really iconic GW1 location that allow us to use as a springboard moving forward for the next confrontation, the next struggle that players are going to be going through. And so it allows us to build a location where players will get to know the lore if they haven't necessarily been caught up to speed. It'll give them a chance to earn new unique rewards. And in this case, we have an upgradable armor set, which is something that players have been wanting to have more choices in terms of their customization and being able to earn more of the rewards in game that they through progression and feeling that connection to the game systems that are there. We're also introducing another mastery, which means that it's more of our horizontal progression that we introduce with our expansions, so that players who are just coming to Guild Wars 2 won't have to worry about an additional level cap that has been raised. It's more about finding new ways to explore the game and see the content in a new way. The first 6 years have been a thrilling ride. In another 6 years, I hope that we are still making just as amazing, just as iterative, just as groundbreaking content in terms of features and the play style. I want people to look back fondly at where we've come from. I want people to remember the friendships that they've made along the way. Guild Wars 2 is a game that is the foundation for building a very unique community, and I want the community to stay together and have fond remembrances of what they've experienced together and beyond, and take that to the real world.